Hey, hi and welcome. All right, I'm just wake up. Uh, oh, it's not even 9 o'clock. Oh, I'm still sleepy and groggy, but I got a lot of stuff to do today. Oh, happy 4th of July by the time you see this. It'll be near the end of July by the time you see this, maybe even August. But okay, check out my hat. Oh my God, I'm so groggy. I literally just got up. Look, sorry about my hair. Yeah, presentable. Okay. Blue Speeder project update. What is the Blue Speeder? The Blue Speeder is a 1985, possibly a 1981. It's been. Riley was to say, no, it's not an 85, it's an 81. But I was told it was an 85. Chevrolet Camaro SS. Sorry, I wish. I think I'm still dreaming. Sorry, guys. Chevrolet Camaro Sport Coupe. 4-cylinder Bertelli, whatever the fancy name is. Anyway, there was 3 versions of about 180,000 of these Camaros were made in that year, and out of that 180,000, most of them were 8-cylinder, big muscle beasts that like tore up the pavement and scorched the earth everywhere they went. The other were kind of more sensible but respectable 6-cylinders that would sometimes tear up the earth and scorch the earth everywhere it went, screeching and squealing and flying sideways through corners. And then there was the highly sensible 4-cylinder, which there's only about 3,700 of them to 4,000 of them that were made for that year. So that does put them on a bit of the rare species list, you know what I mean? So there's not a lot of 4-cylinders out there. You'd say, yeah, it's a 4-cylinder. Everybody wants the 8. That's true. Everybody wants the 8-cylinders. Or do they? You know, the Sport Coupe, you got a lighter engine, so the car probably handles better with a better balance. That big 8 in the front there. This is what happens to every muscle car that gets out of control. It's got this big, heavy power plant in the front. It starts going, all of a sudden, the back end breaks traction a bit, and then it does this. Or wham, spin out. And either takes out a crowd of people, rolls the car, you kills something anyway. So you lose something in the ordeal. Where a 4-cylinder, it might not be heavy enough to worry about that as much, and it's definitely not as fast. So, and it's more economical. So that said, it's still, for a 4-cylinder, it's still pretty punchy. I can't remember. It's only like 90 horsepower or 88 horsepower rated from the factory. The 1980s, there are no fast cars in the early 1980s that were produced because of emissions. Whether we're talking, the Trans Am with its, the Fire Chicken with its, turbo. Again, everything was neutered, but the horsepower numbers, early 70s, late 60s cars had some, everything was 300, 400, 500 horsepower, you know what I mean? And then emissions just killed off the horsepower. But the good news is that the power plants are big displacement power plants usually. So what that gives you is potential. So it's like, okay, if you go around the emissions, you got a car that will scorch the earth and squeal sideways, flying through the corner, that so you have potential there. The other thing I don't know, but I'm pretty sure it's going to be the same, is the bodywork and the frame is probably the same frame that holds the big 8. So the potential of putting a big 8 in that car is probably the same. I don't think there's a difference in the front ends. Maybe the front end, if the front end is shorter, then no. But maybe I could put a 6 in there, whatever. Who knows what I could throw in there. The deal itself for that specific car, I still want it. It's still there. I had to put it on hold. I was informed not to buy the car by an anonymous source. I won't say who, just because I don't know who watches and stuff like that, and I don't want to start anything. But I was saying, Reg, you're probably best best to walk away from that car. He says, I looked at it, and it probably needs a rear diff, So I have the hunch there's probably transmission problems just because, unless it's just the transmission cable broke, the shifter was gone. So there was probably indication that that was being worked on, right? And then he said he basically pulled out a plug and it looked pretty bad. So, but myself, when I was looking at it, I did see an area around the head gasket where there was looked like a fair amount of oil coming out. So it's probably got a blown head gasket. Maybe it's got a blown cylinder. But that said, until I do a compression check and stuff like that on it, I won't know. But that said, if I had to do an engine overhaul, I cannot afford, what's an engine overhaul cost these days? $4,000, $8,000? Probably closer to the $8,000. Now, why would I buy this car? That's the question everybody, seems to want to know. Or the one person who asked, kind of, why would you buy that? Well, there's, before, I tell you why I'm going to buy the car, I need to get you into the mindset of why I'd buy that car. But first, check out my hat. I don't know if I did that yet. Anyway, I used to know this guy called the Old Man. He was, if he wasn't 85, he was 129,000 years old. I don't know. He was an old guy. He was a biker, and I've talked about him before. And he told me a story, because when I used to ride around on my 1948 Harley-Davidson Panhead when I was, 21, 22 years old, however old I was, he was like, oh yeah, you remind me of me when I was a kid, and all that stuff. And he goes, I'll tell you a story. Anyway, when he was, I don't know, probably a teenager, he saw this guy on the side of the road with an Indian chief, kicking it, cursing at it, punching the tank, you name it. All those emotions you go through when things just don't go right? And he bought it from the guy on the spot for $50. All there, mint condition, other than the fact that it wasn't running. And it was something like carburetor was fouled up or something. And he got it. And nobody wanted them. He bought an Indian 442, a couple of those. Before you know it, he had $28, which when he retired, and you'd buy them for $500, $150, whatever. He had the foresight to say these things are going to be worth a fortune in the future. He just knew. He just knew. And he had 18 of the 28 bikes were Indian chiefs. 50s, 60s, 40s, 1930s even, I think. And the average price for each bike he sold when he retired, each year he sold a bike was between $18,000 and $28,000 Canadian. Okay? Why? Because they were unobtainium. You couldn't buy them. Why? They're just nowhere to be found, hardly at all. There's some out there, but you have to understand, too, production, even in the United States up in the 80s and 90s, most vehicles weren't highly produced. Harley-Davidson in the 90s, you were on a waiting list to buy a Harley for like 2 years, 3 years, sometimes 5 years if you wanted something really specific. The used Harley market was actually more expensive than the new. I knew some guys that would go buy whatever Harleys they could get, brand new, and they'd ride them around for like a week or whatever, and turn around and sell them for about 20 grand more than what they paid for them. That's how exclusive they were, right? Because it had value. Now, some of you say, Reg, you don't save up for your retirement, stuff like that. You know who you are. It's one of my usual subscribers. And again, I always appreciate your comments and everything like that. But you pick on me sometimes too. It's all in a good way, though. In a good way. And you say, yeah, you're not saving up for your retirement, and you buy all this other crap and blah 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 blah. Well, I mean, yes, you're gonna live a little. You gotta buy stuff, And most of the stuff I buy is in the good times. And yes, I do have a retirement plan from years ago, but I can't touch it, which is probably a good thing. It's locked in. It's with Manulife. And here's what happened to me in 2008. The world financial crisis hit, and I watched $25,000 that I had worked 7.5 years for gone to bail out the banks. Right? That's just what happened. And you would say, okay, well, that's it. pack up shop or whatever. Well, the whatever I had left in there, it just stayed in there. It was down to a couple of grand. I can't remember if it was 3,000 or 5,000 or whatever. And it started building again. Well, that's over 10 years ago, and I think it's at about $18,000 right now. $18,000 that I cannot touch till I'm 65 or 67. Like it's locked in. So it's like it's money, and even if you can't touch it. Period. You cannot touch it. Even if you were to cancel your whatchamacallit, your retirement savings plan with that company, it's still locked in. I don't ask me what the thing is. But anyway, the good news is that all my RRSP contributions and everything like that, there was 2 years in a row, maybe about 5 or 6 years ago, where I pulled out $5,000 at a time, and I at least made back my initial what I put into it. So I know losses really, but I'm just sitting there watching something that I know it gets hit every now and then. It's like, okay, it just lost $5,000 for no reason. So it's like, if it's there when I retire, great. If it's not, I'm not relying on this thing. It's kind of like it's like having a rich uncle that doesn't really like you that much, or whatever, and he's about to pass away, and he's got a fortune, but he never really liked you that much. So it's like, well, would you get something or wouldn't you? You're not going to count on it, you know what I mean? Well, hopefully you don't have an uncle that doesn't like you. All my uncles love me, and I love all my uncles. But unfortunately, none of them are rich, though. But anyway, yeah, so retirement thing, yeah, I do think about the retirement thing. And then, of course, when I was doing well with YouTube, I was starting to do the silver thing. Now, Bitcoin, I don't know which way to go on that one. If I could do like $20 a month, that would be kind of cool, but it's just not going to be enough. Like, I'm on the Work Till You Die program. I have no idea how what others are going to, like, I mean, I know, at least I'm smart enough to know how screwed I am. Most people aren't, and those are the people I really feel bad for. But then I started thinking, is there something else you can invest in? And Adam Carolla comes to mind. If you don't know who he is, he used to have the Man Show, and I like Adam Carolla. Like, I might not agree with him on every single thing, and I don't listen to him that often. But he bought some sort of rare supercar, and in the 1990s it was worth something like 40 grand. Now it's worth like 400,000. Almost $500,000, something like that. And you think, oh yeah, the value of these things just keep going up and up and up and up and up. And the thing is no, the value doesn't go up. The currency's going down is some of the argument you get, and there's truth to both. Because the rarer it is, the more exclusive it is. The more exclusive it is, the higher the price goes, regardless of the era it's in. So, my question to you is, okay, what does a 1985 Chevy Camaro with perfect bodywork, well, maybe not perfect, but like cosmetic only bodywork, and a rebuilt engine, all original, all there, what is it worth 25 years from now? That's the way I'm looking at it, especially if I get it for the price. Even if I put money into it. I know the cars right now, that car, you could buy one probably in pretty good condition for about $4,000. Brand new, they were about $12,000, $15,000. So they'll be at least worth that. Now, if I were to buy it the way it is and rebuild it, I mean, what does it cost to rebuild the rear diff, the transmission, and the engine? Right? But it's all original. Is it worth it? Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. It's all there. So it is one of those things that the price is low enough on this one that it would be almost worth it to do it. Now, where do you store the things? That's why I wanted to do bike builds instead of car builds. But I do want a cool car. But I'm also, if I'm going to buy a car, I mean Camaros in general. 1978 Pontiac or Chevrolet Camaro, 1978 Pontiac Trans Am, the Bandit. Probably the most popular and sought after Trans Am ever built. Why? Because Burt Reynolds' Cannonball Run, Smokey and the Bandit. Obviously, the Bandit was the Cannonball Run, I think, was a Lamborghini. But Smokey and the Bandit. Burt Reynolds made that car. He put it on the map. He really put that car on the map. When I was going to school, you could buy, say, an 81, the last of the second series, for like 300, 400, 500 bucks, $1,000 pretty much mint condition. 500 bucks, yeah, some teenager had it and blew the rear end out of it. The guys I went to school with, we were all the same. And these were the cars we drove around in, Camaros and Mustangs and stuff like that. Now, I never had my driver's license when I was younger, but I had learner's permits, and I never owned a vehicle when I was younger because I, just didn't. I was more into bikes, but I mean, a kid could go, turn 16, go and do a little test for $10 or $15 and get a learner's permit. And the only restriction was you couldn't have alcohol. I don't think you could drive at night or something like that. But other than that, you had yourself a vehicle. You could insure it. Insurance was cheap. You could probably insure it and everything for under $200. Plate, everything, right? And you buy a beater for $500 and you run the crap out of it. Like, times were cheap. Like, times were so cheap. But every kid did the same thing. They bought the car, and the first thing is they put in it needed, brake work. It needed, suspension work and engine work, transmission work, rear differential work. But the priority was for the $8,000 Clarion stereo, right? Yeah, it runs like shit, but listen to the stereo, man. It's so true. Well, anyway, long story short, one of my friends one day shows up. He was a bit of a rich kid, but he was a cool kid. He wasn't a rich kid that was, hey, look at me, I'm better than you. No, he was always kind of, hey, look at me, because he was show off. But he was like, hey guys, come on, let's go do something. He was always very positive. He would tell bullshit like you wouldn't believe, though, and we'd embarrass him all the time. We'd go somewhere to be like, okay, guys, when we come back, let's tell everybody we got into a fight at the school, and we won the girls, and and he'd tell the stories. No, we did. He's bullshitting. We always knew he was bullshitting, but he was a great guy. He shows up one day in this IROX Z24, this blue IROX Z24 with silver trim. And he takes us all for a ride in it. That thing moved. That thing really moved. It was a fun car, they were doing burnouts in the school parking lot. Teachers were getting mad at us, whatever. Drove everywhere in that thing. And that was a new car. Like, that was a kid with money, while his parents had the money. But he also was my same friend that had the 500 horsepower Chevy Camaro with the lift kit in the back and the trigger clutch, and it was just ridiculous. I drove it in second because I couldn't get it to move. It was just sitting. The rear diff was lowered for the drag strip for Luskville Dragway, which I will be going to. I'm going to wait for the long weekend for Luskville because there should be like 300 drag cars there. It's going to be cool. But anyway, this thing was just crazy, and he let me drive it, and it was just like 80 miles an hour in second gear. Like, it was just like, oh my god, this thing is just ridiculous. But try to keep it straight with it. Oh my god, it was like it brake traction. It was squawking. It was just, but it was cool. It had a trigger clutch on it. It was the coolest thing. It was really, really cool. It was like a pistol grip. It was all modified like you would. Like, I mean, this was quite the car. It was quite the car. Mint. And you could buy a blue Camaro like that, pick one up and modify the crap out of it, and it was cheap. Mustangs. I never liked Mustangs. I could have bought. Here's what I'm talking about. Volkswagen Beetle, mint condition. 1968, 69 Volkswagen Beetle, mint condition. Perfect paint, no rust. Reg, you want to buy it? How much? 150. Oh, you go screw yourself, man. I'm not going to pay $150 for that. What's that thing worth right now? Don't even answer. I already know. And that's why I kick myself. You know why? No foresight, no vision to see that thing would be worth a fortune. So I'm not talking like I'm going to start Jay Leno's Garage 2.0 or something. But what I'm saying is that you can, if you have a bit of vision, yeah, you can see that these things are going to go up in value. Now, the Camaro market hasn't hit yet. Yeah, things are going up. They're, in the tens, whatever. But that's not for mint condition stuff. Mint condition is, like zero time mint condition. That stuff is getting, it's not in Corvette territory by any stretch of the imagination. But, basically these 90s Camaros are just the C4 Corvette with an extra 2 seats, and a little bit detuned. That's the only difference. Well, it's not the only difference, but you get what I'm getting at. These things are going to go up in value. So if you can, it's just a different form of investment. Plus, you can drive it around for a couple of years until you afford something else. Then you park it. You park it in great condition, and then you have it stored somewhere. Or you build a little shed. What I'm thinking is just buy a 53-footer, pull the wheels off it, lower it down, build a ramp, climate control the thing, put a little bit of AC in it or whatever. Mothball everything I buy. And how many bikes can you fit in a 53-footer? Probably over 500. I swear to God. Trust me. I organized a parts trailer full of bike parts. It was unbelievable what I did with that. I pulled out at least 500 bikes. Mind you, they were just all thrown in there. But if you built racks and you put them up, maybe you have 20, 30 bikes. I mean, I'm looking at Japanese 4-cylinder bikes from the 1970s in the $4,000 or $5,000 when you used to get them for $200, $500 mid condition. Only a decade or so ago. The 90s was a good time to buy vehicles. So the way I look at it is, yes, you're going to spend money there, and it's not the only investment I would recommend, but rare things do gain value. Firearms. Problem with firearms is, what are the future of firearms? Well, the future of firearms is a little uncertain here right now with Justin Trudeau. And I know whatever he passes, even if the Conservatives get in the next election, they take forever to get rid of that stuff. Laws come in, they don't go away. So you want to pick something that, it's not going to be illegal to own it. Even if they come out with driverless cars. I mean, they are making that push, driverless cars, so nobody else can drive and whatever. So at some point it'll just be illegal to put a car on the road, or it's already so expensive now that it's next to impossible to do anyway. For most people, that's why most people don't drive. The insurances are outrageous. I mean, you guys know what my plate for my motorcycle is worth. Now, mind you, the cars aren't as bad, but still, they're pretty bad. You got to do emission tests and all that. Vehicles a certain age. So the deal with this car is, right now it's sitting in limbo. It's been sitting in limbo for a couple of years. It's just sitting there. I still want it. I don't know if I can get it even if I have the money. I don't have the money right now. I had the money, sort of, kind of, as a gamble, thinking that, probably just have to do maybe put XYZ in it. If I could have got the car up and running for $1,000 or $1,500, no brainer, buy it. Yeah, it's a summer car, but no brainer, buy it. You know what I mean? I could drive around with bad paint for a year or two. That's no problem. I mean, the thing, what happens when you order up the paint from Pontiac? You know what I mean? And get the exact color. That thing's going to look mint. Yeah, it's a restoration project that will take. It's like 95 to 97% complete. Most of it's going to be, elbow grease. Now, that said, that depends on the condition of the rear end. But the rear end, the transmission, and I could build that stuff. I don't have all the tools, like pullers and stuff like that. But if it only needs a top end, you're looking at about $2,500, whatever. But you could buy one $4,000 that's ready to go. So if you're going to spend $4,000 anyway, just buy one that's ready to go. And you maybe, but it's that catch-22. It's like, okay, you got to buy one ready to go for $4,000, or you could have one zero timed for $4,000 or maybe $5,000. Okay, and if you're hanging on to it for the next 10 years, you're going to get your money back just in its rarity. It'll be $15,000 in that amount of time. And if you wait 30 years or 40 years, how many of those things are going to be around in 30 or 40 years? Every year there's less and less and less of them, right? The only car that's never going to go up in value is probably a Crown Victoria. Why? Because it's the most numerous vehicle ever built in human history. The Ford Crown Victoria LTD, you know what I mean? It's there's just, the police had them, the government had them, secret agents had them, the military had, everybody had these things, They were just they were a huge service car, a surface fleet. And you can still get them here in Quebec, like the QPP, like that used to be the old cop cars. I want to get one just for the fun of it, and put a sheriff sticker on the side and some fake sirens and stuff like that. I don't know if you can get away with it though. You'd have to. I think you have to put a sticker on it, say this, that like this is not a legit police car or whatever. I think you have to do something like that, or when it comes to that. But it would be cool to ride around in an old, it's the Bluesmobile. You know what I mean? It's what it is. They're cool cars. I know where there's one sitting right not too far, like not even 500 feet, about 500. About 1,000 feet from here. It's like I know exactly where it is. I don't know if he's ever going to get it running again. I used to go to work in that thing. But yeah, this is a little bit more of a rare beast. But that said, I do have to have a vehicle on the road. Now, I've got some news about the road rage van that I was not aware of, and I will save that for another video. But anyway, that's what's happening to the Blue Speeder project. It's on hold. It's not an impossibility. The bodywork assessment on it, it's exactly what I'm looking for. A car with like next to no rust. If I have to throw a couple of parts on it, whatever. I mean, the brakes on that car still feel pretty good. It does need tires, there's no doubt about that. And it needs a catalytic converter. The exhaust, the exhaust is still good. Heck, even just buying that thing for parts is worth it, But there's other things that could break the deal. It has to do with it was an auction car, and it definitely would have to pass a new safety. So before I'd even buy it, maybe there would be the safety would be so impossible for it to ever pass, even if it was all there and all stock. You never know, because it'd be like it's so old that maybe you still have to redo an emissions test and it just won't pass it. Right now in Ontario, there's thousands of cars that there's nothing wrong with. They just won't pass an emission test, and there's nothing wrong with them. The guys can't sell them, because that's how they're going to take these things off the road, is through emissions tests, right? So there's that. Now, that said. If something changes with that car, at least I know where it is anyway. And there's another person that might be interested in it. Whether they get it or not, I don't know. But it's been sitting there. I still see it as a good deal as a project car. It could be something really cool. Like, again, even if it took me 5 years to get it up and running, I don't care. It's just, where do you put it for 5 years, right? How do you store it for 5 years? We got enough cars on the property right now. I'm hoping the trailer goes this year. I'm looking at the other cars as a possibility, but I think the white cars, the White Lightning project, I think that one's going to go the way of the Dodo too. I'll know better today. Just try to see. My dad and I were talking about it last night, and he was like, "Oh yeah, but it needed this, and this when we parked it, right?" It's like, yeah, so I'm catch-22 again. Not enough money to make a decision on it. So the way I look at it, if I was going to put money into the Cavalier versus the Camaro, I'm going to put the same money in, but I'm going to get much more with the Camaro because I don't have to worry about the bodywork and the other things. It's just I might have to rebuild it. Maybe I don't. I don't know. Like I say, I haven't done a compression check on it. But I'm not going to bug the guy anymore about it until I have money. You know what I mean? But at least the body assessment was done. And again, you're going to see all those videos before you see this video anyway. So I'm going to leave it at that. So that's what's going on with it. It's just on hold for now. It may never come to be. But I do see it as something that in long term, yes, it would be worth it. Cars running, okay, just because they're running, and I've seen cars for $1,000, $2,000, And but cosmetically, they still need this, they still need that. So this is kind of like, it's a restoration project, is what it is. You know, it's kind of one of those things. I'd buy the car, have it dropped off. It's not that it's far from here anyway, but you drop it off here. It's going up on blocks, pulling it right down, strip it right down to the frame, repaint it, and you know, if I could find a garage or a barn or something to work on it in for the next couple of years, that's what I would do. And you know, redo every part on it, like just build it exactly the way Chevrolet put it together, you know, and just nothing modified. Well, maybe I might modify a few things, but I would keep all the original parts. Like, for example, I'd put a newer fuel injection system on it, possibly put, you know, obviously the tires. It has period correct tires on it, but the tires themselves are no good. But maybe I can clean those tires up and just store them somewhere as so that if it ever, you know, you'd never say something like that would end up in a car museum. It's, you know, whatever. Well, not now, but 25 years from now, hey, it's a car that's known for this or whatever. You never know which way the trends are going to go, right? I know the older, the second generation Camaros tend to be, first generation, 67 to now is you know, the 67s are worth a fortune, you know. I saw just a roller, no engine, just a roller with the Bondo work and the primer done, $8,000, you know. And that's a 67, so that's the first year. And I see those things 40, 60, 100,000 if it's all numbers matching, right? So who knows what these things could be worth. And they're not going to go any cheaper. Again, a 67 used to be cheap, $1,500 bucks. You know what I mean? Yeah. I think Mustangs, 5.0 Mustangs, used to get those for $500 bucks all over the place. And, you know, and this was in the 90s when they weren't that old. Like, you know, they were only like 10 years old. You know, in 85 or whatever. And you're in the 90s and you could still buy them for $500 bucks. Good body work, everything like that. Just usually they always needed a rear differential. And it wasn't because the cars were no good. No, they were good cars. It was just everybody hammered on them so freaking, you know, everywhere you go, right? But that's the kind of car they were. Any teenager that, every one of these cars have been owned by a teenager that screwed it up, you know, and couldn't afford to fix it. So they kept, you know, passing hands cheap. And the next guy put a couple of parts on, and the next guy put a couple of parts on, the next guy put it, and it just kept going and going and going. But anyway, that's what happened to the Blue Speeder project. I guess I'll wrap it up around that. The White Lightning project, I think, is going to be my Chevy Cavalier. I don't think I'm going to be able to resurrect that. That one's a resurrection. It's not a restoration. And it's too far gone, I think. It's too bad because the body on that one was exactly what I'm looking for now as a car. Even if it needs parts, I don't care if I have to put parts on things. I don't want to pull off the... You know, the first, what I'm thinking of is what happens when I hit my first roadside safety check, which happens from time to time. And if it's going to happen to anybody, it's going to happen to this guy. The bodywork is going to have the vehicle pulled off the road. That's so. Yesterday, I looked at there's still parts of the car that's really good, but I think the floor is going to be gone in it. So I'm looking at the same money. The brake lines are gone on it. I know that little cooler, that transmission cooler line blew. The power steering, I think, is not so good on it. It needs a coil. God knows what other things it needs there. When I put the battery to it, it just made it whoa, whoa, whoa. I've never heard a vehicle make that sound before. It would dead short as soon as you turn the key. So, yeah. So yeah, I think it's just too far gone. So, but what about the road rage van? I put the battery in it yesterday. Boom! Sat there all winter. Boom! Up she went. Pumped up the tires. Pulled her out of the little gully that it was in there. Just fired right up. Yeah. Anyway, I'll leave it at that. That's what's going on with the Blue Speeder project. So it's just on hold for now. Possibly may never come to fruition. But I'm always on the hunt for. I'm going to be on the hunt for stuff, and I'm on the hunt for that stuff when I have no money. So, but I got to get a vehicle on the road within the next month or two anyway. Because if I don't, YouTube is going down the tubes for me pretty much as an occupation. I'm getting less and less and less and less and less. Doesn't matter how much work I put in. I'm getting less and less and less. And if the professional Canadian Beaver Walker channel doesn't monetize, I mean, I need 1,000 subscribers on this channel and 4,000 hours of watch time, which I think is going to get there. It's just, you know, it's a race. I'm always on the race against the clock right now. So I'm going to have to get a job somewhere pretty soon, and I can't get a job anywhere without a vehicle. The bike, yes, I could travel on the bike, but, you know, I've traveled the Highway 105 quite a bit over the years, and it's a deadly highway, and early in the morning it's slippy. Even on the bike, it's slippy. It's you know, it's foggy, it's slippy. I mean, you're right along the river. There's tractor trailers everywhere. I don't mind taking the highway, you know, when 10 o'clock in the morning, sun's up, the road's dry. Yeah, you don't care about that. But, you know, at 5:30, 4:30 in the morning, you know, there's dew on everything. If it's raining, you know, even if you're wearing rain gear, it is a long highway. A lot of death on that highway. You know what I mean? So I just know it's, you know, and I've ridden motorbikes on that highway at those times. Like I said, we're coming back at night, whatever. You're going, and all of a sudden, you know, it's a really sharp curve, and you know, your back tire's slipping out on you. It's just, yeah, it's dangerous enough with four wheels on that highway. So the bike, it's just kind of like, if it was something local, yeah, sure, no problem. But I have a couple other ideas that I might try too, and see if I can get that off the ground. Who knows where I'll end up. But anyway, I got maybe a month and a half left of finances. I mean, running everything tight. If anything breaks or whatever, that, you know, like, I just can't deal with anything right now. Like, it's I'm in that financial catch-22. But anyway, that's what I'm at. So I thought maybe the Blue Speeder was going to be, you know, okay, if it took me 3 months to get it on the road, well, I could use it as a winter beater for the first year. I just oil spray the snot balls out of it, whatever, which I can do myself. Maybe I'll start doing oil sprays again. Who knows? But you got to be licensed. You can't do anything anymore to make money. I used to make such good money on it. I could start doing oil sprays now and take probably 3 months off after. You know, like if I started doing oil sprays, well, it's July, so be October, November. I was making like $4,500 a month doing that, and that was just working for somebody else. You know, like now it's like, you know, it's like. But to do it, you have to have a license, and there's all these environmental regulations, and it's, you just can't do anything anymore. But I will find something to do. But I need a vehicle, so anyway, I'll leave it at that. So that's what's happening with the Blue Speeder project. Make sure you hit that like button and subscribe. All right, there you go. Have yourselves a great day, eh?